Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Have a roll call, please.
Bentley? Here. Holland? Here. Johnson?
Here.
Bell? Here. Ludwig?
Here. Next up is approval of the minutes from the May 7th meeting.
I will motion to approve the minutes.
In a second.
I'll second.
All approved, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Anyone in the audience besides those on the schedule? No? All right, first up is Tyler Stubbs.
Right off the bat. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Tyler Stubbs. I'm with the Iowa DNR, the Fisheries Bureau. Specifically, I'm a community fisheries biologist. And so my job is to work with cities, particularly our larger cities and the suburbs around the state, to help develop fishing opportunities and quality fishing opportunities. So some of the projects we've been working on across the state have been kind of revising or adding an option to our stormwater manual that offers a more fish-friendly design option for stormwater retention basins, as that's what most of our fishing opportunities in these areas are. Cities are having to build them for stormwater control, and people throw fish in them. And so we're trying to control some of that by working with the city to make sure kind of we get a leg up on it and we stock fish in them. Additionally, the way stormwater basins are built for stormwater. They're not built for fish. And so if that is an opportunity the city wants to provide, then that is something we work with them on to kind of alter those designs a bit so we can provide a sustainable fishery where the fish population can live all year round. We do see a lot of issues with winter kill in stormwater basins, and also the aquatic vegetation. See a lot of vegetation issues, which leads to resident complaints. So the design option we have just alters that a little bit. Over the last year or so, I've been meeting with Gary and Hannah quite often, and so built a pretty good relationship and had a lot of good discussions. And so probably the first thing that you may be looking at are these fish local signs and regulation signs. So these signs are some signs that we've developed as I've met with some of the cities across the state. One thing that has been pretty common, Polk City included, with Marina Cove is that there's no signage. So they get questions here at City Hall, and we get questions, can you fish here? Are there rules? And that goes for about every city. And so that was something that in initial discussions was brought up as if we are going to provide fishing, maybe we should have some appropriate signage. So the two signs the city has agreed to purchase, and they were $22 a piece, I believe. So Gary agreed to purchase for Marina Cove, 12 Oaks, and then we combined the Crossroads Pond in that newer development. Is that the name, Crossroads?
Across from Casey's here.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. So there'll be two retention basins there. So they're close enough together. We just combine their sign. So it's just one sign for both of those. It says exactly what we want it to say. It says you can't fish here, and it's got the regulations. So the last thing we want to do is have somebody get in trouble for not knowing the regulations. And that's varied in opinion on whether or not they should be posted. But the argument I make is that most people fishing these are not our typical avid anglers. They're neighborhood folks and single moms and people that may fish one weekend a year, and they're not going to know how to find those things. So this is how we kind of break that barrier and answer those questions. And that'll be something in the future as Polk City continues to expand, and if fishing is something that the city wants to keep as an opportunity, we'll continue to work with the city on those signs. Hopefully, at some point, getting to a point budget-wise where we can provide the signs purchased by the city. But it is a good partnership for us as we provide fish for free for all the stockings, the management, consultations on vegetation control. And, we sit in a lot of meetings with engineers on the design to help the city out with those to make sure they're correct for our objective And so it's a good partnership to have, and every city so far has been more than willing to pay the 22% assigned to be with that. The other sheet there is just an information sheet about the community fishing program, and just kind of a two-pager, I guess, on some things that we can provide and work with the cities on. Particularly fond of that front picture on there, looking group there, my daughter and I.
Aww.
But you know, that top right corner of that front page is 73% of Iowa anglers live in 9 metro areas. And you could break that down even further, that about 64% of our anglers live in essentially 11 cities. And so that's where community and more of an urban focus from the Fisheries Bureau, that's why we're focusing a lot more attention here, because that's where our people, not only are our people there, but our constituents are there. That we're funded by license dollars. And so that's where our people are, so we're providing those opportunities. The cities are building them, so we just need to partner. The other sheet that you will have there is an advertisement. So that is a postcard that was sent out to a few of your residents. It was actually sent out to 20,000 people total in the Des Moines suburbs through a grant that we received to do some targeted marketing towards folks based on their license buying experiences. So, or their license buying history. So if they bought all 5 years, a lot of times they're not included. It's the people that bought once in the last 5 years, twice. Just to let them know that there are places within essentially 5 minutes, for the most part, that you can fish, legally fish. So 12 Oaks, Marina Cove, and Big Creek is on. And so 12 Oaks is one that Gary and I have met about quite a few times. We weren't sure if we should add that on there or not. We weren't sure what the development looked like. And I can tell you the park looks fantastic. Some of the designs that I've seen, the conceptual designs, look awesome. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that place grows. We're going to try to sample that fishery probably within the next couple days, and if we can get a boat in there, and just see what we're dealing with from a fish population standpoint. We did sample Marina Cove last year. It's in great shape. It's really good shape. A lot of good fish, some big fish. Water quality was good. Starting to slough a little on the banks, which will shallow it up a little bit. It can give you some vegetation issues in the future, probably. But it's just the life of the stormwater basin. Those things are going to happen. So, but Marina Cove was very impressive, and 12 Oaks looks pretty good just by walking. So, but the biggest thing that why I'm here today is just to let you know that I exist and this program exists. That the DNR is here to help you with whatever you need as far as developing quality fisheries and opportunities. Our communications department sent out that postcard along with some things that you could put on your Facebook pages and on the website to promote fishing. And that just did that recently, so a lot of that stuff's kind of in its infancy. But just something to let your residents know that that's available. We've got a lot of anglers, specifically in Polk City and in kind of the northwest edge of Ankeny. You just have a lot of anglers. Another thing on your website, you did a survey a few years ago on your residents on why they moved here was one of the questions. And proximity to Sailorville and Big Creek is an obvious plus for Polk City, obviously. Schools are very good here. The third thing, and very close third, was your local parks. So that shows right there, people are moving here for the recreational opportunities. They're not moving here from far away. They're leaving Bondurant and Ankeny to come here. So that's pretty telling on some of the opportunities that exist here and we want to help you build. So we're here to help, and be happy to send you any big fish pictures we see in the next couple days that you can market. But Gary's been excellent to work with. Public Works has been great, and these signs are being printed as we speak. Hopefully have those up next. I think I'm supposed to get them on the 8th, and so I'll bring them out here shortly after and get them put up.
this program, it doesn't change anything with the enforcement, right? It's just awareness and disclosure of kind of what's around the laws.
Yeah, so what do you mean by enforcement?
It's not going to be just because we modify the storm drains to have fish how they should be. It doesn't mean that, you'll park a DNR boat on there every other week and
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
something like that.
Polk County's got 2 officers total. So that's usually our issue is people complain they don't see us enough. So, and that's part of what the regulations sign. People do self-police themselves quite regularly. And a lot of our anglers in these retention basins typically don't keep fish for a couple reasons. One is they don't know what to do with it afterwards. We have just a lot of inexperienced anglers. And they just don't fish. So harvest is actually an issue. And that's where we've got a few projects going on looking at our stocking rates. You see a lot of our ponds become overpopulated. We have issues with winter kills and other types of fish kills simply because people just aren't keeping. And so keeping fish is actually what's, I think, helping Marina Cove. While we were there, people were keeping fish. So I think that's part of why it's kind of stands out.
And I got to find a healthy balance between keeping some and.
Right. So the bluegill are the main thing we want people to keep. That's why you can keep 25. You only keep 3 bass. And I don't know, I'm not familiar with all of Polk City's ordinances as far as feeding waterfowl goes. But that may be something the city would look into in the future. It's also an issue we see in these retention basins is people feed a lot of geese and ducks. You end up getting residents. And we see pretty intense algal areas. Geese hang like that.
I don't know if I see. You guys?
No, I haven't seen any at Marina Cove, I guess, but just with your proximity to Sailorville, Big Creek, it could be an issue, especially as you continue to expand.
Tyler, what office?
In Wallsville.
Oh, you're in the office.
Yep.
Do you have a card too, or are you just on the website?
My contact information is actually on that 2-pager there, but I could get you a card if you need it.
I have somebody who I think wants to job shadow.
That would be fantastic. I do a lot of traveling, so I mainly deal with the top 30 cities in the state by population, and then their suburbs, obviously, Polk City.
Thanks for all the updates.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there plans to stock these retention basins in 12th or in Crossroads?
There are, yeah. I mean, we're working with Gary and Snyder, I think, is the one who came up with the conceptual plan.
So you'll actually stock the.
Yep. So that's part of the deal, I guess, is that if the city's willing to provide that opportunity, we'll provide the fish.
And then I guess the other question you brought up about feeding the geese, is that something, would it be well advised to put signage up not to feed the geese? Because I can see where that could become a problem.
It could be, but of course it's always better to back it up a little bit with something on paper. But the goose problem is a twofold issue. Again, I mentioned could have some water quality detriments, but a lot of people are feeding them white bread, which is not something that they're typically going to find in their diet. So it could actually be harmful for the goose itself if they feed a lot of.
I made a note of that. I'll bring it up at the next council meeting and see how we can proceed.
It's like feeding deer.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of hand real quick.
Yeah.
I feel like my children must have been taught that recently because my kids know that we can't, like they don't do it up on vacation at the lake. They stopped doing it a couple years ago. They must have learned that.
Polk County conservation officers come out and talk to them every year at school about
That could be when, yeah.
the great school.
Because they told me
I don't know if anybody from DNR does or not, but I know Polk County does.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys originally stock a pond at Marina Cove?
I think we did have a hand in that. 12 Oaks, we did not.
Yeah. Excuse me. That water basin at 12 Oaks has been a pond that's been there for
Right.
Mm-hmm.
as long as I can remember.
Yeah, definitely pre-1990,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
according to Google Earth.
I would say prior 1960.
Yeah.
Ron's been around a while, you know.
So we'll see. We do plan on checking that out tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we'll see as far as access goes, if we can get in. I noticed when I drove by there a little bit ago, it seemed like that newer development on the southwest side, it seemed like those were built more for walkout basements,
Mhm.
so that's a little steep to drive over. But we can get in where the future park access will be up at 12 Oaks Drive there. I think we should.
Well, I think this is a great opportunity for recreation in Polk City. I love seeing young kids walking down the street with their fishing poles on their shoulder or on their bicycle.
Right.
It's nice to see them doing those activities.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting to watch. Ankeny kind of stands out as far as retention basins go. They've got a lot of. There's around 30 or so that are kind of marketed as recreational, but it seems like every time we're there, there's a group of kids riding bikes around and fishing poles. A lot of different ways to tie a fishing pole onto a bike.
Yeah.
They're getting around. Of course, they're all connected by the trails, and so it does definitely add, I think, a quality of life factor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I grew up in Des Moines, and there was a lot of ponds around it. On the side of Des Moines that we fished in.
Right. One of the biggest things with these fisheries is also amenities. And so, like Marina Cove's got the nice playground. One of the things that our anglers consistently recognize is bathrooms, especially females and folks like me who have 2 daughters. Taking little girls fishing without bathrooms can sometimes be a hindrance. And so, Porta Johns, those sort of things. Are something to think about in the future as you build some of these areas to maybe add some of those things in there.
Taylor, are you aware? I think this is a really great program that we're all excited about. Are there any other initiatives the DNR has, maybe on the other conservation programs that we would benefit from learning more about?
One thing that I'm looking more into, and I've only been with the DNR for about 2 years, so I came here. I was a biologist with the state of Mississippi, and I'm really adjusting well up here to these allergies. But the wildlife diversity grants are something that I'm really trying to look into a little more. And those are run out of the Boone Research Office, I believe. And so what those are for is when you buy your license tags, your DNR license tags, that goes to the diversity program. And that money is used a lot for pollinator mixes and native seed. And that's really a good fit around some of these retention basins, especially if there's waterfowl issues, tall grass being around them is something they really don't appreciate. But it also adds a water quality benefit, especially if the pond's going to be draining a lot of runoff for a large area, something to slow that water down. So I think that program is something we can really work together with.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Next up, we have Steve Carson. Did I say that right?
You're close. You have to be more German. It's
Carson.
Karsgen. Yeah. So, thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be here. This is actually my first time stepping foot through the door of City Hall. A little bit about me. My wife, we moved to Polk City about a year ago. Our grandchildren, and our daughter, and our son-in-law too. But our grandchildren first and foremost. I know Kelly's husband, Ryan. He graduated with my daughter, Kelly. So we live at 1920 Meadowlark Drive, which is in the Lost Lakes division. How did I get here? I ran into Mayor Morse at Come and Go a number of Saturdays ago, and I told him I was very interested in serving the community, and I was very interested in recreation. We have a trail right behind our development in Lost Lakes. We ride our bikes there. And really, I'm interested in connector from Polk City to the High Trestle Trail so that we can begin to bring some of that traffic into Polk City and around. I used to be a very active triathlete, and I used to ride county roads a lot, and I'm much smarter now. and I won't ride county roads any longer, and that's why I think that the connector is so vitally important if we're going to have young kids and really teach them to enjoy bike. We need to do it in a safe environment. So the mayor suggested that I become Polk City's representative on the Trails and Greenways Advisory. And I was more than happy to do that. I've been to one meeting in April, and I submitted my minutes to Becky, and she included them in your packet. So we can go one of two ways. I can sort of give you a little synopsis of what was discussed at the meeting, or you can ask me questions about things in.
Okay, to give us a synopsis.
Okay.
Is everyone okay with that?
Okay, well, so when I talked to Mayor Morse, we talked about three things, and sort of halfway down the page on the community reports, one of the things that he had told me that I didn't know was that the new, there would be new bike paving from the Neil Smith Trail to downtown through that new development, the Crossroads development, and then would hook in down below and then come up Broadway. I shared that with the members of the advisory committee. I also shared with them, based on my discussion with the mayor, that Polk City was interested in wayfinding. If you ride the trail over by Madrid in particular, you'll see nice signs there with signs on them that point or at least mention different businesses in the community. Mayor Morse told me that he in particular was interested in developing some kind of wayfinding. And then also I mentioned that there's much interest in a connector from Polk City to the High Trestle Trail. And in my little bit of research that I've done, I see there are lots of options, but there is no perfect option for that. So I think that that's probably something worth discussing down the road. So those were the three things that I brought to the attention of the advisory committee from Polk City. A couple of things that were discussed by people that were there. Number one was wayfinding. And lots of communities are interested in wayfinding, but nobody has the perfect idea of how to go about doing that. And you can see in my minutes that Des Moines follows the Central Iowa Trails design. I don't know what that design is, but in the end, the discussion seemed to say that municipalities were really responsible for their own wayfinding. And if they like somebody else's, there's nothing wrong with copying somebody else's good idea. So that was one of the things that was discussed. You can see that there are a number of communities who are involved in this advisory committee, and during the meeting, everybody goes down. Each city is called on, and people report what's going on in their communities. So oftentimes that's related to the trails, not necessarily to the city, but to activities related to trails. So that's why I mentioned some of the things about like the grand opening for the trail around Easter Lake and the Iowa Trail Ale launch party. Both of those things have been held, but they're just in my minutes. See, Granger talked about how at least someone on the committee, I think it was Adam Fender from Polk County, talked about potential for a trail from Granger up to Jester Park. I thought it was interesting that one of Adam's comments was that he expected that over the next 10 years that all those farm fields would fill in between Granger and Jester Park Park, in his words, would become an urban park. I thought that was very, very interesting. Then Colby Fangman from the city of Des Moines talked about what's going on in Des Moines in particular. And you can see there's a mention there. People were a bit up in arms because they're going to close down the bike trail down along the river and put in a station, a lift station, and it happens to be in an area where the eagles nest. So there's some concern about that. And then the other on the second page there, Adam had mentioned that he met with our chamber director and had a good meeting. Adam also mentioned that he had written a proposal a number of years ago about a bike trail from the High Trestle Trail path along 142nd Avenue to Big Creek Park. And he mentioned there's an abandoned dirt road down there somewhere. I tried to find it, but couldn't, that the county owns along part of this, and he said it'd be easy to run a bike path. But he said that had never been acted upon by Polk City. But I mentioned to him that there are ongoing discussions about other ways to get people into Polk City downtown other than going all the way around to Jester Park and coming back in. And he just mentioned that he would be more than happy to meet with any group and discuss any options that people might be considering. So I really appreciated the opportunity to go to the meeting and sing the praises of Polk City. I think this is a beautiful community, and like Tyler said, it has so many opportunities from a recreation standpoint. And I think the High Trestle Trail connector into Polk City would really build fun. So maybe that was a little longer than you had
That's okay.
anticipated, but that's my longer song.
Well, I know that that's kind of been a priority since the Trestle Trail was built. At least I felt like Polk City's kind of been bypassed from a lot of good biking opportunities, especially with Neil Smith right here. So that the key is trying to figure out the best way to connect the two and then bring people into downtown. With this advisory committee, do you think that there's opportunity to work with other towns and communities regarding any ideas that they've implemented that might work here? Or
Well, I think the wayfinding is a good example of that. I'm sure that Matt would be happy to share with us what they put together for wayfinding. I think the one thing that I came out of the meeting with was a real strong feeling that all of the communities want to be involved, that were there, want to be involved in promoting use of recreation trails, whether that's biking, walking, winter activities, whatever, that people work together. Of course, this is Des Moines' committee, really, and so there's Des Moines, and then there's all the rest of us working together with Des Moines to make things happen. But I did feel strongly that it sounded like there were some opportunities. I did a little research on how they got the High Trestle Trail developed in the first place, where they found the money for it. I wanted to know myself how much that cost, and of course it was millions of dollars.
For
But-
the railroad, right?
Yeah, yes. I didn't realize that the railroad wanted its beams across that bridge and took its beams, so they had to come up with the money to build the structure again after the railroad took its property. But I did see that they worked closely with the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, and the very first thing they did was develop a steering committee to begin looking at opportunities to fund their High Trestle Trail project. And they received money, quite a bit of money from Congress, actually, about $5 million from Congress, and we can certainly lobby our, I don't know if I can use that word, we can certainly encourage our members of Congress to support this project as well. The Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation seemed to really play a critical role in steering it, and then they received money from the Iowa Arts Council to develop the bridge concept. I thought, well, there's no reason why we couldn't do the same kind of thing. And then Vision Iowa awarded them almost $2 million from the Iowa Economic Development Authority for their project. So again, no reason why Polk City couldn't do the same thing to get its connector put in.
Was that a county thing originally, or does each city decide how they're going to use the segment that came through there?
Yeah, so it is a steering committee made up of representatives from 9 communities along the route.
Okay.
And Boone, Ankeny, Madrid, Slater, Woodward, also the Polk County Conservation Board, the Dallas County Conservation Board. But they built that, they got that going, I think, in 2000. The railroad proposed shutting it down in 2003, and the bridge was done in 2011. So, it wasn't that many years, and just for anyone's knowledge, what I found on the internet was that 3,000 people use that trail per week. And that would be a wonderful thing for Polk City.
Do you have a vision for how this group might be involved or how you're forward with that?
Well, I would come to you and ask you, because I don't know the logistics for how you go about doing this, but I think the steering committee is an excellent idea. And I think that we would have a perfect way to advertise that steering committee and people who might want to be on it through the city's Facebook page if we chose to, go that direction. I do think I would leave that up to the various committees and the mayor to determine, mostly who should be involved in that. But, Polk County Conservation, I don't think there'd be any, there'd be no crossover with any other counties. I ask you guys.
Not really.
Not until show
Right. So it'd be Polk County Conservation. Perhaps the Iowa DNR might have a representative on that committee.
Tyler, would that be like wildlife? Like wildlife bill?
Probably, yeah.
And then, if we were looking at a trail that a connector that would bring people from Ankeny into Polk City and back around, I guess. I don't know if you touch on Johnston or not. I don't
Well,
know.
Excuse me. The Neil Smith Trail does kind of now touch on Johnston down to Sycamore Access.
Yeah.
That trail that used to be dirt on the other side of the river, on the west side of the river, is now paved. And a bit of history. I believe we've had some engineering done as to where we want to go and how preliminary engineering, we didn't spend a lot of money, but there are some proposals out there, and our representatives that go to Washington every year with what's it called, the Greater Des Moines Partnership. They have talked to our representatives there about this and about trail money, and I don't know, for years we were on their radar, which we thought was a good thing, but I think we need to come up with a plan and say, we're going to take it this far. Who do we help with now? But it's something that the city is very interested in, and we've been talking about for 10 years.
Yeah. How long's
Maybe
that?
longer.
How long's that stretch between Kiwanis past your kid's house
So do they.
to like? How long is that stretch right there that would need to be curbed and
Quarter of a mile, and I know we had the engineering done with that.
Yeah.
That got done a while back.
before that last?
One of the problems with that, I don't want to get into this too much, one of the problems with that, there's some land acquisition because the right of way is so narrow up there.
Yeah.
But I think every neighbor along there, except for maybe one of us, more than willing to have it happen.
Yeah. That'd be awesome to connect right there with
Yeah,
that technology.
And that's kind of the thing that when we looked at with this new development coming around through the development, we've got that part done through Marina Cove. No, what is it called? Edgewater. No,
Deerhaven.
Deerhaven. I knew I'd get it. There's just a few going on.
Yeah.
And going out up through Broadway and out Third to our whatever that park's called, the technology campus, and out that way. And they've even talked to some of the landowners out there.
That'd be right by the Oasis.
Yeah,
Yes.
and come out near the Oasis.
So I know people in Polk City who are just as interested in biking as me.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to throw something out there, and you can respond to it because it was thrown out to me. That Broadway ends, and the lake is there. The river goes there and forms that big pond on the other side of the lake on the other
Reservoir,
side.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I noticed that the The road bed
The old road's still there.
goes
yes.
through there.
Yeah.
Has anybody, now I was just through Des Moines a few days ago, and I noticed over Gray's Lake that they have that nice kind of pedestal
Mhm.
bridge. Has anybody ever given any thought to a bridge across there? Now, I realize that would be a big project, but thinking big is not a problem.
It's something I've never heard discussed. One of the problems right now maybe it's not a problem, is with the Corps of Engineers to keep that water down there. We've been, I call it backwater. I don't know what it is on this side of the barrier dam, and keep that lower so that, because if we don't have a lot of rain and they're pumping into Saylorville, the old road bed's visible
Yes.
all the way across there.
Yeah, and I saw it not that
Yeah.
long ago, and I
Yeah.
thought, well,
Yeah.
wow, that's just a nice straight shot right into Broadway. Obviously, so I drove out there, and I thought, well, a shot down Broadway, a bridge, and then you'd have to connect into the gravel road. Somebody told me that was old Stagecoach Road or something. Am I wrong on that? Or?
I can remember a lot of things, but I can't remember the stage.
I don't mean to be looking directly at you.
You remember the stage?
Because somebody can look back at me too, I'm sure. Anyway, someone had mentioned something along that line, just because if people were coming from Ankeny with small children,
Mhm.
going all the way to the Oasis is quite a jog
Mhm.
for small children. Whereas potentially coming straight into Polk City there would be that'd be a fantastic route for a family. Would bring people right into Polk City and would develop another beautiful, potentially, bridge that would not be as big as the High Trestle Trail, but would be a very picturesque
Mhm.
bridge. So anyway, that was an idea that was thrown out to me, and so I just
Yeah,
wondered about it.
I don't think we've ever talked about it. I'd like to thank you for coming on board and for being so enthused about this, Steve. And actually, that's what we've needed, and the potential, because eventually, we all know it, Polk City's city limits and Ankeny city limits are going to touch, and to work together with them and get that trail down through there. There's just a lot of things that could happen.
So I'll just close by saying that the Mayor Morse had suggested to me that after I went to the committee and after I presented to this commission that we try to bring some people together and begin to look at a strategy for at least outlining where we might want to propose a trail.
Well, and I think a good start would be for you down here to come and see what we've done already and take those tools back to your next meeting. Say, this is what Polk City's done already. Not much physical, but there has been engineering done, I know.
And who would I talk to?
I would start with Mr. Mahana, the city administrator.
Okay.
You agree, Lindsay?
Yes, I do. You can just call and set up an appointment.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
And actually, before Steve leaves, it would be great if any one of you from the commission, there's one that can even attend this next meeting with Steve.
The advisory.
Yeah, is that something that they could do just to kind of get a little bit broader perspective?
Sure, I mean, I don't see why not. Maybe I should ask if it's,
Oh, okay.
if it's limited to the advisory committee
Okay.
or if you can bring guests along. You'll notice in my minutes, and I hate to keep talking here, but I did question their strategy of always having the meetings in Des Moines, thinking that it could potentially generate some real enthusiasm to bring people to Polk City and have a meeting here and sort of outline for them what we would like to do. So, and no one seemed to have a problem with that. It's something we could suggest.
How many people is it? Like, how big of a place would you need to hold them?
Oh, I'm sure there were 20 people there.
20-ish? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
That's something else I'll talk about at the next council meeting, about hosting one here and see, I'm sure the city would get.
I think so.
Definitely.
All right, the next item is to consider a motion to recommend to council to approve P&M Apparel's request to use the town square for Monster Dash, which is Saturday, October 13th. It will consist of a 5 and 8K run, live music, and will be alcohol free. I don't think anyone's here to talk about that, right?
No, Ryan must not have been able to come.
It's the same, looks like everything's the same as last year, isn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
see any, is it a 5 and an 8K? It's just a
That-
I think they use the same course
This is
that we.
2016's route.
Yeah,
so-
Yeah, they use the Four Seasons Festival route.
So, but, yeah, they use the Four Seasons Festival, but in their material, it just says 5K. Is there gonna be an 8K going into the,
Oh,
onto the trail for the 8K? Because that might get dark.
I'm thinking it's still just a 5K.
I
Let's see
think
their
it was just the
proposal.
5-4.
Yeah, it may just be the
Well,
minutes
there's-
accidentally.
5K and fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so that might have been.
Right, Becky, it may just be when
Sorry.
you wrote the
That's
minutes
okay.
or something, yeah.
Yeah, because everything else looks exactly the same as what they submitted last year.
And is it still for local families, for cancer?
Yeah, it's back here.
Yeah,
support?
there's a larger event proposal on the back of the packet.
Okay,
Yeah, Polk raise money for local
Great to the
families.
families.
okay.
And it's alcohol free.
Any questions, concerns, comments? All right, can I get a motion to approve
Motion to approve.
and a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Mr. Morse, you are up, sir.
Excellent presentations by Tyler and Steve. Tough act to follow. It looks like I've got no report. I just enjoy these meetings.
We enjoy having you.
We said
Enjoy
something.
it.
We enjoy having you.
Ron, council report?
I'd just like to say, echo what Ken just said, how nice it was to have these people out here and how it looks like things are gonna be in place to help Polk City get to where we wanna go. And, the P&M Apparel's thing, that's something the city we've always been enthused about. Anything that we can bring into the square, people, local business. I think the city council would be very cooperative on that. Other than that, I don't have too much of anything.
How did our Memorial Day celebration go? Does anyone know?
Yeah, the mayor reported on it last time, and he thought attended probably attended around somewhere between 50 and 75 people, and
So getting a little bigger, maybe?
yes, that's one thing they did say, got a little bigger every year. I think this was the third year,
Okay, cool.
something we'll probably plan. And there again, it happens because we have people who are willing to work at it, volunteer.
Yeah, and the square looked great with those flags.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice.
All right, staff report. What works? Do they have anything? No?
All right, nice.
Anything from the commission?
I got one thing real quick. I worked with the mayor about a month and a half ago, and I couldn't make it to the last meeting, but the baseball field for Little League we had on 3rd Street, we moved it to temporarily at Lost Lake, so we can utilize that space and the green space in there, so.
Let's hear from Jose.
What's that?
Let's hear
You
from
wanted the backstop.
I wanted the backstop so my grass doesn't die from my boys playing golf ball in my yard. No.
And that is just the staging ground for the construction, right? It's
Yes.
just gonna be
Yeah.
back to, yeah.
Boy, is it a state.
It is. It'll be back to grass eventually.
Anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn until July 2nd?
I motion.
In a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So be.
Back to the ball field.
Back to the ball field.
Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Great.
Tyler, so I am a high school counselor, and I have a student who wants to be a fisheries biologist. He just graduated.
Okay.
He wants nothing more in the world than to do that. I'm at Ankeny High.
Okay.
But can I share with him your contact info, and then
I can even just write it